Tony is desperate to have acting.
Yeah. Of
Thanks.
any kind.
Of any
really.
kind. That's all.
Yep.
That's all actors really want. I mean,
yeah.
And it's kind of like all of them, right?
Yeah, we just want to do it. Like I feel like the majority of us don't need to be rich. We just want to do it. We just want to be invited. That's all.
Yep. That is the central conceit of the actor, and that's what I said to him. I am not an actor. Couldn't care less.
Hey, watch him with Dan and Tony. Hey, watch him with Dan and Tony. It's like watching, yeah.
Welcome to Hate Watching with Dan and Tony. I'm Dan.
I'm Tony.
Each week we talk about a movie, we dissect it, we get to its core, we understand what's behind the filmmaker's thinking.
No, don't promise that on this movie.
Filmmakers. You didn't like this one?
No, I loved this movie.
Oh.
This is a horrible movie. This is a terribly made, terribly written, horrible movie, and I had an absolute blast with it. Just had so much fun. I have some notes. I think that it could have been better.
It could have been better.
It could have been better.
I find that hard to believe.
I'll just tell you right now, stop knocking Mark Wahlberg out. Don't make him unconscious for 40 minutes of your movie because he's the best part of the movie. His creepy, weird, sexual, this guy is making me laugh all through the movie and you keep knocking him out. Unbelievable.
Did you ever believe any of what he was doing?
Who did you believe in this movie? Don't, as if that's like some sort of level setting for this movie. Who did you believe? Because I'll tell you what, it's not the agent, the main lady. She never said one word that I believed. Topher Grace is fine.
He's okay.
He's just kind of being Topher.
Yeah.
He's just kind of doing himself. I feel like a lot of the takes are just like, just do whatever you want on this one. Let's see how it goes. Because they don't always make sense in the movie, but it's fine because he makes me chuckle. It's none of the people on the voiceover on the radio or the telephone because I'm pretty sure they didn't read a script. I'm pretty sure someone just called them and were like, hey, just repeat these lines to me. Don't worry about context whatsoever. This movie, man, this is Mel. What are you doing? What are you doing, Mel?
This movie is called
Mel Gibson.
This movie is called Flight Risk.
Flight Risk.
Tight hour and 31 minutes of mostly boring exposition. Mostly boring exposition.
Yes, because you keep knocking out your only antagonist. If you knock out the antagonist, we got nothing to do. We have nothing to do for 20 minutes at a time.
The interesting thing is he's often awake when they're trying to make critical phone calls. And he's like,
and not doing much.
Doesn't make a peep, right? When he's like, I'll be polite while you're talking about the phone call that's gonna help get me to my death sooner. But when that's done, I'm just gonna talk about.
I'm gonna go rage.
I'm gonna talk about raping Topher Grace. I'm gonna do
a bunch.
So much about rape. It's just you know how I'm gonna rape you. It's gonna be enjoyable because I'll be raping you. I'm good at rape.
Enjoy this. I should have written down how many times he said, I'm going to enjoy this, because I feel like that was his motto. He said it probably 15 times throughout this movie. I will say, Dan, in defense of this character who was quiet during the phone calls didn't actually seem that helpful. So he's probably listening and being like, I'm fine. I don't even have to worry right now because these people are all idiots. They're all incompetent idiots, and they have no idea what they're doing.
Well, it is interesting that we'll talk about how this movie gets set up in a minute. That You're always like, oh, he's done something and they're going to trick them. Or, there's going to be – you're always waiting for the red herring or the switch or the turn. It never comes. There's nothing.
No, pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's like at first we don't know Wahlberg's the bad guy. Then, within about 30 seconds of meeting him, we're like, "Oh, he's the bad guy." Oh, okay.
Well, I think at first you're like, oh, he's a bad guy because he's skeezy. But then you're like, oh, no, wait, he's the bad guy. Now it all makes sense why he came into this plane. And I was immediately like, oh, this guy's giving me the creeps because he's a bad guy. And Mark Wahlberg, not the best actor in the world. So, he kind of telegraphs it. And it's probably script related. But he never comes in and tries to fool you. That's for sure.
What do you know about the script, Tony?
I don't know anything about it. Was there a script?
There was a script.
I know absolutely nothing. I did zero research on this.
This is one of those scripts that was top of the blacklist.
Now, let's have a conversation, and I'm going to pose it in the framework of if you're outside of Hollywood, but really it's because I have no idea what the blacklist is. But tell the people outside of Hollywood, Dan, what is the blacklist?
Oh,
I don't think they understand.
Oh, but you know what the blacklist is.
It's a thing that I hear about all the time, and they're like, "Oh, these scripts, the blacklist. Oh, there's a podcast about the blacklist," and I'm like, I don't really know what it is. How does a script get to the blacklist? What does it mean if it's on the blacklist?
Oh, how do you get to the top of the blacklist? I know this, but no, there's a competition site for screenplays that you can put your screenplays on there, and then enter competitions, which I did a little bit of, and I won't say I had success, but occasionally you'd get somebody, one of your things will be in a contest or something, and people will say positive things, and you'll move up, and you move up this thing. It's Coverfly, I think it's called Coverfly. Okay. I mean, it might be the one that gets you to the blacklist, but the Coverfly definitely has. I think it's Coverfly has a group of scripts that are at the top. These are the ones that have won multiple contests and people have read and said this is good, good. And so at a certain point, you get up into this vaunted, is that the right word? Vaunted status of the blacklist or the red list or whatever these lists are. Okay. And these are the best unproduced, unpurchased scripts that are kind of floating out there. And it's usually like 10 scripts that, everybody's like, oh, this is the one, and in the case of this script, this is the one where they're flying a guy back and you end up with this tight situation where there's a bad guy and a marshal and a witness.
You should. Right? It should be tight. It's a good setup. It's a nice setup.
It could be a good setup and it could be tense and you could care about something. But this movie, basically, the marshal is the good guy. Wahlberg is the bad guy who wants to rape the witness.
Very bad.
And the witness had worked for a mob guy or whatever. And then he stole a bunch of money and then ran away. So they're bringing him back to testify against the mob guy. But Topher's character is just a whimpery nerd guy. Yeah. He never vacillates between allegiances, which is what you would need him to do.
Well, they kind of just like a very little bit at the beginning. Remember, like that first conversation, he's like, hey, I'll give you some money and we'll just not do this anymore. And that's it.
Yeah. He doesn't.
He tried one time, sort of.
Well, and also the bad guy is going to throw the marshal out the window or kill her or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's, and he I think he questions Topher's character, he's like, are you okay with that? And he's like, what do you, sure.
Yeah.
Like that,
yeah.
And this is a point where you see who his character is. Is he a total dick? It's only about himself. But we find out he turns out to be like kind of bonus good guy, which we're like.
Yeah. He's just kind of fine. He's just like, hey, I made some bad choices, but that's it.
He should be put in the middle of constant moral. There's no moral dilemmas in this movie. No one has a moral dilemma for a fraction of a second. And without that, all we have is just the jeopardy of the situation. And the jeopardy of the situation is dopey constantly.
It's dopey. And also I feel, again, with knocking him unconscious whenever they need to like divulge some sort of scripty, I just feel like you're losing that urgency. There's no urgency to almost anything that's happening. And these phone calls, I can't wait to talk about these phone calls, but these people on the phone, when she's like, hey, I'm flying a plane and I don't know how to fly. Everyone's like, okay, well, let's see what we can do, huh? No one is like, let's get this person on the ground for the love of God. Nobody cares about anything.
And when a lot of your major interactions are phone calls,
oof.
There was a thing that, I don't know, somebody taught us in improv. They were like, always stand up. When you're sitting down, your energy goes down. And when you're talking to somebody on the phone for extended periods,
especially who you're not really talking to, like let's keep this in mind. These conversations not happening in real time whatsoever.
Oh, so you really think that they canned all of that? They
there's not a chance that those people ever talked in real life. not a chance. I just the way that the inflections work between there's just no way. There's no way, because this person on the plane gets pretty excited sometimes. I don't think she's great, but she has some sort of level of emotion. What's her name? Leah Remini
is the woman.
She never puts any sort of feeling on any words. She's like, hey, I sold you out, and basically told the bad guy that you're the bad guy. And all Leah says is like, hey, I love you, but thanks, bitch. What are you be upset? She just put a target on your back. You're dead the next scene. We never hear from you again, and you did not care at all.
You're gonna die, and you're like, well, that's them breaks.
Thanks a lot. So bad. It's all so bad.
Guess I'll call my children and say goodbye.
Yeah, no, it's an embarrassing. All of it's embarrassing, to be honest with you. Also, what's weird, did you notice that the guy who voices Hassan is not the guy who plays Hassan at the end?
I'm going to tell you something, Tony.
Oh, please tell me something.
Never saw the end of this movie.
Okay, hold on.
First time ever I haven't finished a movie on the show. I was to the last 5 minutes, and I think you got onto your account, and I got kicked off. And I was like, "Oh, I'll go back and watch it again. I'll watch it, this morning, because it was literally 5 minutes." And yeah. I forgot that I didn't finish it, and then I was reading the plot description on Wikipedia, and I was like, "Oh, what happened?"
I didn't
I'm like, "Oh, geez, I didn't finish it." And this was like,
God, that's amazing.
2 minutes before he went on. So I was like, "Yeah, well, whatever." I read what happened. How did you know it was a different guy?
Because I saw in the credits, there's 2 credits for Hassan. There's Hassan, and then Hassan parentheses voice. And I was like, what? And which you didn't see, I assume, but he shows up at the end.
Yeah.
And he never speaks. It's like there's a slow motion, like they make eye contact, he smiles, and then something else happens, and he never speaks. I was like, well, that's weird. And then you read the credits, and there's a guy that played the voice, and there's a guy that played the body. I don't understand why that happened. Somebody needs to tell me, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird movie. It's a terrible movie.
It's a terrible movie. There's a lot of weird choices that I would love to talk to somebody who was in this production and just ask some questions. I just need to know some answers. How, why, when.
Now, were they just sitting on a soundstage with green screens everywhere, and that's how they made this movie?
I would imagine, yes. I will say there's a couple of shots of taking off and like the first veer that they do that looked like real plane. But even when we do the first entrance of the airport, there's like some sort of, I don't know if it's
you mean the crash?
A drone shot? No. When we first see the airport, and there's a drone shot moving over the airfield and the airplane, and then there's a cop truck or something there. Those are both fake. Those are both, those are both added in post. You can tell because the coloration and the lighting's completely wrong on both of those vehicles. And I was like, that is so weird. You don't even have money to get a shitty crop duster plane? Like, what is going on here, guys? I don't know. So I don't know if that's just stock footage. Maybe that's what it is. That is just stock footage. That's Getty Images right there. And they're just adding in some elements that they shot on a green screen. I don't know.
It's interesting when they talk about, AI movies and all this. And that's where all the AI is going to end up, in these weird little bits in lower level movies that they just need to, it's like
because it's cheaper.
It's cheaper, and like the plugins for bullets, and there's all this kind of stuff. It's just it's people thinking that they can have the veneer of something that looks more expensive, but it just makes you go
makes it
like,
look worse.
Oh.
Just makes it look so much worse. Just spend $400, rent a plane for the day. Just set it on a street somewhere. I don't even care. You don't even have to rent it. Just be like, hey, guy, is this your plane? You mind if we shoot it and give you $100? He'll do it. I don't know.
But it has to look the right way, and they probably wanted that shot later.
That's true. That's true.
All they had was, that CGI plane that they paid for, and da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah. But I have to imagine everything is they're just in a little cockpit, and you got probably just green screen around, blue screen, green screen, one of the two, because I don't think they have enough money to do any sort of digital stuff. But yeah, it's fun stuff.
And the flip side of all that is nothing ever feels real. You're just like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, even the motel, you're about to say, hey, we open on a motel. The motel's fake. That's a fake scene. You can tell because the sign lights up and it doesn't light up anything around it. It's all fake, man. It's weird.
But that's the thing. It was interesting. At one point, you're like, oh, maybe they'll crash in the, and then they'll have to be in the snow and something will happen. But in this movie, you couldn't ever crash because you couldn't.
Well, they do crash, Dan. Did you not see that part?
Yeah, sort of. This little model going like this. Oh, it got stuck. Just leave it in. We only got an hour and 31. We need to leave every second in this movie. But you couldn't spend that money. It's interesting. I was watching this movie, Guns Akimbo.
Oh, Daniel Radcliffe. I love Guns Akimbo.
And so I watched this stupid movie, and then I watched most of Guns Akimbo last night. Didn't watch the end,
Sure. That's kind of your thing. You just don't finish movies now.
Well,
that's fine.
I fell asleep, and then I woke up and saw the one girl blew up, and I was like, oh, okay, well, she's gone.
Sure.
I thought they were going to fall in love, but
I
guess they're not going to fall in love.
Doesn't always work out, Dan.
Super hot psychopath, whatever. You can't really fall in love with a psychopath. But point being, just like everything in that movie is like him crawling out of windows, him doing this, him going through a thing in the movie and in being in the movie, right? And that all feels real.
It does. So here's the thing, right? The flip side of that is like one of the draws of this movie is that it takes place in one setting, right? The phone calls all happen off screen. You're not cutting to anybody on the so like it's cheap, right? There's an episode of Friends, the one where no one's ready or something like that. They wrote this episode because they didn't have. It was like one of those in-between episodes. They didn't have money for locations. Oh. So they wrote an episode that is entirely inside of Monica's apartment. They never leave the apartment. And it's one of the best episodes they've ever done. It's so tight. Everything is so tightly done because it's all right here. You're not going anywhere. You're not worried about anybody but the 5 people in this room. 6 people in this room. That's how many people are in Friends. And it's brilliant, right? So like there's the flip side of things. It's like if you put everything in one room, you would think that the tension would be constantly there because we're never leaving. Like I should feel claustrophobic. I should feel trapped on this plane with this guy. You need to feel these things because we never leave. But I'm just like, yeah, we're all right, cool. We're cruising to the Bahamas. I don't give a shit. This is the dumbest plane ride I've ever been on.
Well, that's because there's no relationship between the characters.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Mark Wahlberg wants to rape Topher. And maybe do something bad to the woman. In
fairness, I think he wants to rape them both.
Okay, so but he really wants to rape Topher.
Right. Yeah, like if he was ranking them, Topher would be way up here on the rape scale, and she'd be down.
He'd get 5 rapes for every 3 rapes that the woman would get.
Yeah, no, it's weird.
But so that's not a relationship. And Topher's like,
no.
He's uncomfortable and afraid of him, but there's no relationship there because he has there's no connection or interaction. If you're like I said, if Topher was in between the two and at times had to constantly make choices, and are you with me or are you with her? Are you with her? Are you with me?
For his own survival, right? He needs to have to like navigate this situation as opposed to just sitting back and just being like, well,
and at one point Topher should be like, I'm going to kill him. I'm going back. And she's like, no, you're not killing. She tases him. We're just like, it's constant thing about who has status, right? Nobody has status in this. They're all just a bunch of people that are all like, well, I guess what's going to happen with,
And she's bad at her job.
Oh, she's terrible at her job.
Why is she bad at her job? That's a bad decision.
She doesn't secure weapons. She doesn't secure people. Right.
She doesn't secure people. That's my biggest problem.
You've got a bad guy back there, and you're like, well, this piece of leather will hold him. He's up there like
and she
sawing.
refuses to kill him.
Yeah.
She's like, I won't kill him because I'm a better person. He needs to go to jail. That's a fine way to build that character. But she doesn't lock him up. At one point, she like knocks him out with that flare. And from what I can tell, he's just laying in the back for at least 5 minutes. Just untethered, just like hanging out, enjoying his life. It's real weird.
Once you set up that you have autopilot where you can just... And you just click a switch and everyone, it's a stage play. It's like, go wherever you want, do whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Go make a cocktail. Who cares? It should have been that somebody was always had to be on that stick. Right?
Yes.
So
autopilot should have been destroyed.
Disabled.
I don't know how a plane works.
Neither do I.
Autopilot should have been disabled. Mark Wahlberg should have just done that before he got on the plane. Yep. He should have just snip. I assume it's one cable. I don't know anything about it.
It's got snip twice.
Don't
snip once, snip twice.
One here. Autopilot's done. But you
measure once, snip twice.
She almost doesn't need to be in the cockpit at all. She could be in the back, like holding a gun and just be like, Topher, hey, look out this window. If you see a mountain, let me know and I'll come fly the plane. Otherwise, we're fine. We're cruising.
Yeah, you could have had it. So someone has to be on the stick constantly. And so when Topher's on the stick, whoever's on the stick has some power and control.
Yes.
And each time it switches, we see the power shift. So she's on there and Topher's like doesn't want to go back and he's trying to decide, do I want to be with you or with him? And he's all like, she's like, go tie him up. And he's all like, no, I'm going to shoot you. Okay, shoot me. Then he's coming up to get you when, and then you have to shoot it. These are moral conflicts that could happen in this situation. There's no moral conflicts.
Let me ask you a question.
Moral conflicts in this show at all.
Should Mark Wahlberg be there to kill him? Or, let me pitch something else. Should Mark Wahlberg be there to give him an ultimatum and be like, hey, come with me. We're going back to Mr. Giovetti, or I'm going to kill you here.
There's a big pile of money somewhere. There's a big pile of money somewhere. And like, Giovetti or whatever his name is, he wants the money back. Yeah.
And so he's got to decide, like, am I going to try and do the right thing with this government lady or life of crime? And either way, I could die. I don't really know. Like, I don't know. It doesn't matter. It didn't happen. I was just wondering.
Yeah. These are all things that, I can't believe this. If the script, I doubt the script dealt with all these things. I don't believe it. I think that, I think those scripts, a lot of times they're like, kind of sexy, like you said, sexy. It's three characters in a triangle and they battle it out. Okay, that sounds interesting.
It should be a nice, tight thriller, full of character development, moral choices. You're right, because you're not doing action, right? Like it's not an action movie. So the conflict needs to come from within.
Yep.
It has to be this triangle of conflict, and it's just not. It's just not at all.
It's a lot of phone calls and then people giving their weird backstories. I got kicked off of the case because I let a prisoner go to the bathroom.
Burn alive.
And then,
what is happening?
She was burning alive, and I just ran away. You're like, wait a second.
I just left her.
Right? That's what the story was, right?
That's exactly what the story is.
She's burning alive, and this woman does nothing. Like,
she just ran away.
So this is cowardice.
Listen, she's already on fire. Okay, like what am I gonna really do?
But that has to be the set. If that's your character trait, then that's what she has to get over, right? She wouldn't run into the fire.
What a perfect experience to get over losing one of your people to save this one. But she never has that urgency. She's never like, I need to keep you alive because I'm not losing another one. Yeah. Like you are my redemption. You have to live. She doesn't really care. She's like, I want you to live because I really want you to testify. It would be good for us if you testify. Well, please live.
Yeah, that's probably helped me get my main job back. But she doesn't seem that invested in getting her job back.
I'm going to go on a limb and say she shouldn't get her job back. I'm just going to
She should never get her job back. Never.
She should be at a desk for the rest of her life. I'm sorry. She is not good.
The best part of the movie is where they're like trying to use the radio, and then she's like, oh yeah, I got a satellite phone in my pocket.
I have a satellite phone in my pocket this whole time. She's the dumbest person in the world.
Okay, we talked about this movie enough. Goodbye.
For almost 20 minutes. Real quick though. So it was on the blacklist, you said.
Yeah.
So now I don't know if you know this. You can tell me if you don't know. People can just bid on those scripts then on the blacklist, and then they just get made.
Yeah, it's an unproduced and I believe an unoptioned script. So you can just walk over there and option it anytime you want. And I believe a few other blacklist movies have been made, and I'm thinking the results were equivalent to this.
Interesting. We should find a list.
Yes,
okay, I'm going to try to find a list of like all the blacklist movies that were made, and we'll just do them all.
Yeah. So we start the movie.
That's interesting. Yeah, let's do it.
Snowy day at the Igloo Motel. There's Topher Grace. He's I wrote, as an actor, he's considering how to revive his career. This movie, wrong choice.
Didn't work out for you, bud.
There's some movie where he played the tech millionaire, and he was really good. I don't remember what it was, but I really enjoyed it. He's making cup of noodles, which is not actually called cup of noodles. It's called cup noodles.
Cup noodles. Okay.
Cup noodles.
Really?
But actually,
why do we think it's called cup of noodles?
Because we're insane.
I thought you were going to say it's the Mandela effect. I was trying to lead you into that, but you think it's just because we're all crazy.
Yeah. And he actually,
cool.
He actually wasn't making cup noodles. He was making, because it's called cup noodles because it comes from Japan, and they just called it cup noodles. We call it cup of noodles because we're a bunch of Americans.
Because we're a bunch of hillbilly hicks. Yeah,
sounds better.
I get myself a cup of noodles.
Well, there was Lipton cup of soup.
So they're just conflating it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was one called Mug-a-Lunch. I could show you.
Mug-a-Lunch?
Yeah.
Don't eat that one. That doesn't sound good at all. Are you going to go get it? You have one? I can't wait for this. Bring us a cup. What do you got?
There's a vintage.
Cup of soup, onion.
Yeah, so that's why we call it cup of noodles.
Onion soup. Ugh.
Onion soup is the greatest thing ever.
That can't be right, Dan. What do you put in it?
You make it into dip.
Like a French onion dip?
Yeah, that's how you make onion dip. You take a pouch of onion soup and you mix it into a thing of sour cream, and you have the best dip in the world.
Interesting. I didn't listen. Recipes by Dan. Thank you.
Man.
I didn't know that. I don't make things. I make meatballs, which is 2 parts barbecue sauce, 1 part grape jelly, and then you just put it in a slow cooker with some meatballs, and they are sweet and salty. Oh my God, they're good. But how do you try that?
Oh, you buy pre-made meatballs.
Yeah, you think I make? You could also do it with cocktail weenies if that helps. The little smokies, those are good too in there. It's the same sauce. So it's the same ingredients, just different meat, and it both works.
I learned 2 things this week. First, they're called buffalo wings because they're from the city of Buffalo.
No way. Is that true?
That is true. They said this all over the Super Bowl.
Oh, we turned that off pretty quick. We were like, "Oof, this is terrible."
We just watched the halftime.
Smart. Yeah.
And the other thing I learned was that Cyndi Lauper sang the Pee-wee's Playhouse theme song.
You learned 2 very different things this week. I love it. I didn't know that either. Great.
Now,
great for her.
You can tell the story about the 2 things you learned next week on the show, and they will be the same things I learned.
I'll have to seek out something to learn. I don't generally learn things.
Yeah.
So I'll do my best.
What were we talking about?
Cup noodles. Nope, I don't know. Yeah, he's making cup of noodles in the hotel.
Boom. Topher hears a noise at the window. He's on the run. We know he's on the run. What's at the window, Tony?
Oh no, you're gonna make me name. Is it a moose? Is it an elk? What is it?
It's a CGI moose.
Oh no, this is a real moose. It's definitely a real moose.
I love the CGI moose. I was like, if this movie keeps this up.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
It does honestly, at the very end. At the very end is the big payoff.
You're right. No, you're right. This
movie does have a payoff at the end.
This whole intro scene is really terribly done, but in a funny way. You know what I mean? Like, it's much funnier than the next 85 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you're right. The end is very funny again. But I just wish that it was this level of camp throughout the whole movie. And I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more.
Have you been watching the new Reacher?
Yeah, that's the thing that I love this week.
Oh, okay.
You spoiled it, Dan. Oh, you don't like it?
It's interesting. We'll talk about Reacher later. But
okay, yeah, let's talk about it. Let's put a pin in it.
There's like the same sort of officer, martial woman in Reacher, and she's great. You're just like,
yeah, she's wonderful.
I love her. She's doing. Is she doing Boston accent? Is that what she's doing?
You think I can name? I can't even do accents, Dan. I can't name an accent of someone else doing it. But yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, so then he says, fucking Alaska. Then the troopers bust in and they grab him and say, okay, you're going to testify against the bad guy.
But wait, where do they put him? This is my favorite part of the movie.
Oh.
They put him in cuffs and then they are going to throw him on the bed. And Topher's like, not the bedspread, it's crusty.
Yeah.
That's the best laugh of the whole movie.
He makes a bunch of jokes, and they're fine. You know, he can deliver a joke.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. If you let him, which sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
He wants full immunity. She's like, makes a let me call in and see if you can get full immunity. And then they're like, maybe.
Yeah, not how any of this works, but yeah.
He goes to can we do this?
Hold on. On her phone call, what does she say? She says, okay, here it is. I wrote it down. I was like, so she calls it in, and we don't hear the other side of the conversation.
Thankfully.
And the first word she says is, yep, clean capture. What does that mean? What does that mean?
They didn't shoot anyone.
What did that person ask her?
Did you have to shoot him in the nuts? That's what I asked.
Just the left one. Just the left one. He's still got one left.
That's my number one question.
So dumb. Clean capture. No, okay. You're dumb.
So then,
the dialogue's not great in this movie.
We do a whole setup where he's all like, I gotta pee. And then they let him go pee. And then that's it. He doesn't really figure out a way to try to escape again. He just wants to
they're
pee.
Doing the joke that you've heard a million times, which is like, hey, if I have handcuffs, you're going to have to touch my pee-pee while I go to the bathroom. And that's like the beginning. And then we're like, credits, because that's a great joke no one's ever done before. And it worked really well.
Oh. Should have had the number 2. What was I was watching something else where they're talking about number 2 and you're going to have to wipe my ass. What was I watching?
Sure. See, because people make these jokes all the time.
They did all that stuff in Guns Akimbo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there you go.
And they
did number 2 because it's a little more intense of a movie.
Yeah. And at one point, what's his name helps him put on his clothes. And then he's like, he has to eat a hot dog. And he's like, put it in my mouth. And the guy's like, and he draws the line of putting the hot dog in his mouth. Okay. This was funny. It was funny in that movie. You're like, okay, it's a mess. Yep. And he's got guns glued to his hands. So
yeah, he does.
Chartered air. So we go see the chartered plane they're taking. We do a Spirit Airlines joke, and here we meet Daryl Booth, as played by Marky Mark, as played
good old DB
by Donnie Wahlberg, Marky Wahlberg, whatever, one of the Wahlburgers.
Marky Mark,
and he plays, I'm the world's biggest yoko. I'm such a yoko.
Now,
why does he play
they're
Yoko?
In Alaska. Well, right. So they're in Alaska, right?
Yeah.
Why does he sound like he's from the South?
Well, why does he sound like anything but himself, so as to make them realize that this is like a weird caricature that he's put on to be weird?
I don't know. It's bizarre. Why does he have hair? Why is he wearing a toupee under the hat? Because he's going to take off the hat and he's bald. Why is he wearing a toupee under the hat? They don't know who he is.
It's a big.
The hair isn't doing anything.
They don't have a thing where it's like, look out, because one of Mariotti's guys is around. He's weirdly bald. He's got sort of a Friar Tuck haircut. Watch out for the Friar Tuck man.
Also, just a hat accomplishes the same thing. You don't need a fake toupee to have the little tuft coming out. It's super weird, man.
Now, is he wearing a bald cap?
No. So this is the only thing that I looked up because I was like, man, this looks really weird.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't quite look like a bald cap, but it also looks like they didn't make up it at all because it doesn't, his face two tones, right? It's like super pale. The top of his head has never seen the sun before in his entire life. And then his face is nice and tan. And I was like, if he's an actual bald man, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I had to look it up, and he shaved his head. Yeah, he shaved his head every day before filming. That filming only lasted 22 days, so it wasn't that much of a sacrifice. But he'd be in the makeup chair, and they would shave spots in his hair because he didn't want to wear a bald cap because he thought it would look bad, and then it turns out it looked bad anyhow, and I'm sure that's embarrassing for him. It's one of those things you probably instantly regret. But it happened.
I mean, a good makeup person should have been able to put some makeup on that big pad of baldness.
You would think. Yeah, you would think that you not even that much. Just maybe powder it, maybe put on like a foundation. I don't know, just to match the colors. Because again, he is a person with hair. So his head has never seen the sun before in his 54 years of life. I made that number up.
Now, why are you so pale?
I'm pale everywhere, though. See, it matches because I don't go outside. I'm afraid of it. All right, I stay indoors at all times.
I'm like the best tanner in the world. You know that, right?
You're like, are you a bronzer? Do you bronze?
No,
yeah, I burn.
It's like I go out there in the sun. And I just turn like the perfect color. Everything's perfect.
So I didn't mean you. Do you use bronzer? That was confusing. I mean, does your skin get like a nice golden brown or whatever they call it?
Yeah.
Because I don't tan.
Yeah.
I just go straight to burn.
Yeah, it's because you come from a Arctic climate.
I do, and I sure do. Probably going back there soon.
I'm a sun person.
You're an LA native. People don't always know that about you, Dan.
Well, Southern California. They take off. He's Daryl Booth.
Okay.
Oh, I wrote, he's the bad guy. It's Bumpy.
Because he's bald? Topher makes a joke about that. That it's something about it's worse getting raped by a bald guy. I don't remember exactly what the line is, but it's in there somewhere. And I was like, that's really offensive.
Because that's embarrassing. It's like, if I get raped by a guy with a full head of hair that's good looking, it's okay.
It's fine. Like, it wouldn't be great, but it's fine. At least he's good looking. But yeah, as soon as you're bald, it's like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. Unbelievable. These people, man.
Wow, man. That must sting. They take off. They put on headsets. Wahlberg and the marshal put on headsets, so they're talking, and now Topher Grace, they can't hear Topher Grace because it's really loud. In a plane like that, it's very loud.
100%. Yeah.
Even though it wasn't very loud in this movie, of course.
Well, yeah, because that would be a lot for the audience, and like if we had to do this thing where it's loud until someone puts on the headsets and then it quiets down as if we're the ones with headsets. I mean, that's just a lot of post work, so we're not going to do it.
Don't got it. They hit a bird, so they fly higher. Then Topher sees the thing on the floor. It's the actual pilot's name and picture. And so now we know he's the bad guy. Then he tries to get her attention. So he finally bites off a button, spits it at her.
Which is pretty incredible if you think about it. Like he went 1 for 1. Nicely done.
Well, but it could have bounced off and she'd been like, what is going on? She doesn't care. Wahlberg gets a barf bag, and then
there's a moment, Dan, where they're talking. The two people up front are talking, and then we cut to Topher doing like mocking them.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm this relatively attractive person, and I'm doing that. And then we cut right back to the people up front, and he is in he wasn't doing that at all. So I think there's just a really funny moment to me where they're clearly filming inserts of this scene, and like Mel must have just been like, Topher, do whatever you want on this one. Oh. Do whatever you want. And then they just cut it in, but he doesn't do it in the wide, so it doesn't match up. So he's like doing this, and all of a sudden he's like this, looking out the window as you cut in the middle of the conversation. It's unfortunate, but they really wanted to get that joke in there, I think.
Then the marshal's starting to suspect. She's like, "How'd you know about Seattle? Because you're a Yankee, and Yankees always want to go back to the lower 48s." Please stop.
Does he say the lower 48s? Because that's actually a pretty good line.
Yeah, of course, it's a good line.
Okay, Dan Goodson. You know what else is a good line that he says at some point? He says, and I quote, "You remind me of this gal I used to fiddle with," which is one of the grossest ways I've ever heard anyone say something like that. And I was like, okay, that's kudos to whoever wrote that line. Probably Mark Wahlberg, let's be honest. But like, it was gross. It turned me off immediately.
So then she asks the whole, like, the most classic trap thing. When I flew up here, I flew with this pilot McGurky, and McGurky says that blah blah blah, and then he's all like,
"Oh yeah, that McGurky, he's a real good guy. We used to hang on out down at the barn.
McGurky was a lady. Let's fight, fight.
Let's fight."
She loses. She gets knocked out,
pretty handily,
and then Wahlberg gets to, lay out the plot. Mr. Mariotti's angry, and Cover's like, "I'll give you $1 million in crypto." And then he's all like, "There's reasons why I would rather rape you than get $1 million in crypto. We're never going to talk about what these reasons are. There's no history, but He
says a really funny line.
Yeah.
He's like, "Do I look like the kind of guy who fucks around with crypto?" Which was a good line.
Yeah.
The problem is then Topher immediately pivots and says, "Well, I can get you cash. I could do cash." That's where it fell apart. If crypto was the only thing that he could offer, because that's like, I don't know, maybe that's the only way he's liquid or whatever. Great. This guy doesn't understand crypto.
Yeah.
I don't understand crypto.
Yeah.
Not that I understand anything.
But there's always this intimation that there's some deeper connection between these characters.
Yeah, but there's not. Other than the sweet, sweet loving that Mark wants to do with the two of them.
That's all he cares about.
Which outweighs every other logical decision he'll have. He wants to rape them so badly that he refuses to kill the cop lady. He's going to disappear. He wants to just kill them both and then just leave. But he wants to have sex with them so badly that he can't even do his job properly. That's weird.
Well,
that's a weird thing.
He does say, "I do this for fun. I do this for free."
I know. It's weird. It's really weird.
This is a weird. If you're setting up a character that weird in your movie, you're gonna give every other character a bunch of backstory that they talk about. You don't give him any backstory. And doesn't he do a whole thing where it's like, "You don't know what my real name is"? And
something like that.
And we never figure out what his real name is because no one cares what your name. Why would I care what your name is?
You're not a person to me. You're a guy on a job. That's all I know so far. That's good for you.
I don't need to know the name of the person that's interested in raping me.
Because even if you did, it wouldn't mean anything because he doesn't matter to anything.
And then I guess she just wakes up and then attacks him and tases him. Is that what happens?
Well, she's kind of awake for a while. Like you see her pull out the taser and get ready.
Topher yells at her, wake up now, wake up now. And
the usual.
She gets tased and he turns out bald. Then he's talking about raping her. Then he tases her. And then she tases him. And then she tases him more than he tased her, so her tasing wins.
I mean, she tases him at that last one for a good 20 seconds, I think. And I don't know. I've never been tased.
No.
I'll let you know that. My wife has been tased because she took a self-defense class. And one of the things is they make you get tased so you know what it feels like. Anyhow, I don't think you're supposed to tase somebody that long. I think that's really bad for him.
Oh yeah, you can kill a person, I would assume.
But he's fine. Other than his chest is literally smoking when we see him next. Other than that, he's fine.
There's I watch the cop videos sometimes, and it's always the best when they tase people. There's like this one where this guy's running across the lawn. They hit him with the taser, and literally he just faceplant.
Flat up.
Nothing in his body continues to work. And he's just, bam! He's on grass. So, but yeah. There are people that can take a tasing. And then there's a lot of people who are just like, I'm done.
For sure. I'm definitely the latter, but I feel like Mark Wahlberg would be the former. I think he's
40 seconds on.
Yeah, 40 seconds.
But of course, during all this, now the plane is crashing. She pulls up. They don't crash. They click on the autopilot.
Dan, can you tell me something about airplanes?
Yes.
So this airplane is basically in a nosedive almost, right?
Yes. Yes.
Shouldn't they be maybe not 0G, but shouldn't they be lifting off their seats a little? Like I hit turbulence in a plane for 1 second and I'm off the seat a little. Shouldn't there be some sort of distortion of gravity?
Probably.
I don't know.
That makes sense. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah. I mean, flying a plane is very hard. You have to keep the nose right. You have to keep the airspeed right because you'll stall out. There's all sorts of terrible things that happen.
I've played a lot of flight simulators in my day.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Is it?
It's tough. Yeah.
But are you playing? Are you playing Piper Cubs or are you doing jets?
What did you just say? Piper Club?
Piper Cub. Piper Cub's like a small, single fixed
wing.
I'm
flying jets, mostly military jets, because they're fast. I like to pretend I'm in Top Gun. Is that really so bad? Jeez, guys.
It's pretending. Winston's freaking out. He's pissed himself. We never really deal with the piss or see the piss or
it dries immediately from what I can tell because we can see his legs. Okay. He's got no pee-pee on him at all.
She has to cut off her restraints and Winston helps her. And then Winston's like, shoot him. And then she's like, I'm not going to kill him. She goes and searches him. And ties him up. She finds a paper on him, and then she she's all like, she looks at the one paper, goes like this, and then he's all like, what's on that piece of paper?
What is it? What is it?
No. It's like, could you telegraph your emotions a little more to the person who doesn't need the information?
I don't think she could. I think even if she tried really hard, I think she's at a 10. I really do. There's no room for up. There's only down.
This is the only time she ever pulls up to 10. It's like to make sure that Topher understands.
You really need him to ask about this piece of paper. Really sell it.
And on that piece of paper is a picture of his mom's house and the address. Why would this guy have a picture of the mom's house and the address in another state that he's not in?
Yeah, I guess my only guess would be to try to persuade Topher to do something, but he's not there to do that. He's only there to kill him. So it's confusing.
Okay, he's freaking out about his mom. Then she tries to use the radio. She talks to this one guy, and his first thing, so she's on the radio. This guy says, "You don't sound like a pilot." After one line, he's like, "You don't sound like a pilot."
Well, she didn't do a call sign, Dan. All right.
Delta Alpha Alpha Delta
Roger.
Jacob Big I'm coming in there and I'm about to say speed.
It's like if you get on a CB radio and you try to talk as a human and they're like, "What the hell is this? Get off the radio, boy!" That sort of thing.
What are you doing on radio, boy? Stupid boy. Then she realizes, when they lose this guy. Oh, I have a satellite phone in my pocket. She talks to a guy. She talks to a person, and the person's like, "We're going to find you a pilot." And then Marky Mark wakes up. Wake up! They point a gun at him, and then we realize he is psycho.
Sure. Yeah.
Talk about Hassan, the person that's helping her fly.
Okay. There's something wrong with him, and I don't know what it is. Maybe we'll get into it in the sequel, right? But he is not a real human. I know that. I know it's got to be the machines are trying to do something. I don't know what the whole plan is, but the AI wants Topher Grace, and that's what I got from this movie. This guy can't deliver a line and sound human to save his life. She's not a pilot. She's flying a criminal, and he's just the weirdest fucking thing. He's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure. We should go out to dinner sometime." What's happening? Why is he hitting on her a little bit, but also not really at all? It's embarrassing. It's the worst voiceover work I've ever heard in my entire life. And I'm so glad that the guy that shows up in the movie isn't the guy doing that. But I'm going to tell you right now, if I was the guy who shows up as Hassan at the end of the movie, I would be fucking livid that everybody thinks I just delivered that performance. That would be the most embarrassing, gut-wrenching moment of my life if I saw this movie at the premiere and I was like, who the fuck did that voiceover? Why are they pretending it's me? Because it's terrible.
More importantly, if this is your movie and someone gives you that performance, you're just like, we got to do this again.
Mel, just do it yourself, buddy. I don't even care. Just do it yourself, man. Mel could do it.
I mean, and she like doesn't even like kind of react to it, right?
Because they're not. I'm telling you right now, they are not talking.
But one of them has to go first, and then hear the other one, right?
Do you mean logically, or you think that's really happening in the movie while they're filming?
So she's just responding to so both of them are responding to voices that don't exist?
Exactly. I guarantee you that someone is reading off camera for her. So she is not hearing this Hassan guy deliver those lines. Someone is reading next to her outside of the cockpit.
Got it.
Is my guess.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know anything.
That makes more sense.
I would be even willing to wager nobody is saying anything and they're just kind of going blind. But I don't know. I can't prove that.
Because he's so weird, so creepy.
He's so weird.
And it's like you were talking, you just be like, you turn to Topher and you'd be like,
we are in trouble. Something's going on the ground. We are in trouble. They're trying to murder us. So that's what I would say.
So all these parts, there's no acting available to anyone. She can't act because she's not acting against someone. And
I'm telling you,
the guy on the
has to be
phone's
the
not
case.
acting because he's not acting against her performance. No, everybody's in separate buildings.
I think we're isolated, and I think we're just slopping it together in post, and it does not work.
It's so terrible.
But also, I am willing to wager that Mel did not do the help with the voiceover work. I'm going to give Mel Gibson the benefit of the doubt, which I guess I shouldn't because he's a bad guy, right? That he was not there for whatever, if it was a phone call or a Zoom and they're just recording it. I don't know what it is, but there's no way that the director is there and listening to that and is like, yeah, that'll fit in my movie. Because none of them do.
So you're saying some guy just self-taped this and shipped it in?
I swear to God, this is my educated guess, Dan.
Wow.
This is what I'm telling you. I could be way off. Who knows? Maybe they have a boom mic and the guy's standing right outside and they're really doing it. But if that's the case, it's the worst acting I've ever heard in my life. So you got to pick your poison here.
They spent $20 million promoting this movie.
That has to be more than the movie cost to make.
It does not say on Wikipedia how much was spent making this movie.
There's no way it's more than 20 million.
Really?
You can make this off of 2 million. Well, but you got Mark Wahlberg.
Well, yeah, I mean, ignoring the salaries.
Yeah. Well, that's got to be all of it, though, right? Don't you think? I mean, I don't know the main lady, I guess.
Here's a question.
But
if you're not paying, if we just have, actors nobody knows, like you and me and Suke.
Yeah.
We're the three characters. I'm playing Wahlberg. You're playing Topher Grace, and Suke's playing Marshall. I'm incredible.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell Suke you said that.
Unfortunately, I'd probably play the programmer, and you'd probably be Wahlberg, wouldn't you? Yeah, you go.
I'm already bald. It's working out in my favor.
All we need to do is get you a hat. How much would that movie cost us to make?
I mean, obviously there are different levels, but to make it at this level,
movie,
you're looking at $2 million.
$2 million.
Right? Like not a lot.
Not a lot. Okay.
But more than we can afford.
No, I understand. I'm just saying,
however,
to do all the stuff they're doing without paying, exorbitant prices for actors,
100%.
you could do it for about $2 million.
I'm going to tell you right now, though, we could make this movie better and just never show the outside of the airplane. Because that's where you're going to sink a lot of your money, right? You get an airplane set, that's it. That's pretty much 90% of your movie, right? And then you rent a motel. That's $100, right? You can do this movie very cheap, but the outside's going to look even worse, which is shocking because it already looks terrible. But it would look worse because we're not good. We're not good at it. But you can make this movie for relatively cheap.
Okay. He starts singing. Who's singing? Oh no, Hassan tells him to head to the coast and then turn left. Okay,
Mark Wahlberg starts singing a little.
He does some singing. He talks. Now we do more rape talk. Then he sees that this knife that was there at the beginning of the movie is underneath one of the chairs.
Now we need to talk about this. Okay? So the knife flies out of Mark Wahlberg's hands earlier and hits Topher in the forehead.
Okay.
The butt of the knife hits him, which is, classic joke, right? And then it falls to his feet slightly under the seat.
Yep.
He knows where the knife is.
Yes.
And it just happens to be right next to the piece of paper with the license or whatever, the aircraft license of the pilot, which he picks up and gives to the lady.
Yep.
Nobody picks up the knife that's laying right next to it.
I believe she went looking for the knife and couldn't find it.
It's right next to it, Dan.
It's perfectly exposed right on the floor that anyone could see. And I believe...
And they show it several times.
And I believe she did go looking for it at one point where it would have been in the same spot and could not find it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Because she goes looking for it and then has to use the crappy scissors in the first aid kit. He can't see it. She can't see it.
But he knows where it is. That's what bothers me. He literally, it hit him in the face, fell to the ground. He knows exactly where it is.
And that's where she looks also.
Yeah.
Because
that's bad.
No, she's a terrible agent.
She is really bad. She's incompetent at best.
Okay. Boom. He starts singing. He sees the knife. They're heading towards the mountain. Turns out they got to go higher. They go higher, but they don't go high enough. And so this plane flies through a big pile of snow and keeps going.
It's totally fine. Listen, I never done it, right? So I don't know exactly what would happen.
Maybe it could work.
Maybe it could work. I'm betting it wouldn't. And to the point where if someone was like, hey, it's going to work and you should try it, I'd be like, no, sir, because there's no way that's actually going to work and I'm going to crash.
What are you supposed to do? What is every other decent movie that does this exact same bit? This is a bit this is a common bit. What do?
They just barely make it and they hit a little bit of stuff, like maybe they lose their wheels or something.
That is what happens. They lose
something that doesn't really matter.
They lose their landing gear, which does matter, which means
that's the word.
Means that it's going to be harder for them to land when the time comes.
It's already pretty hard, Dan. She does not do a good job. Yeah, no, this plane goes straight through. It's so weird. And I don't know.
The knife slides all the way back right to where Mark Wahlberg is. And what does he do with that knife?
It's my second favorite part of the movie. He grabs the knife with his feet and then is trying to throw it up to his body with his feet in behind. And nobody notices this. And it's hilarious to me.
And then what does he end up doing with that knife once he catches it?
Does he do anything?
No, he never catches it, and we forget about that.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Nothing
he just gives up, right?
I have no idea.
He gives up because he grabs it with his feet, he throws it up, and it hits and rolls down his body, and he's like, shoot, or something like that. Nobody's paying any attention. He's back here trying to get the knife, and then I think he just forgets about it. He's just like, too much work.
Yep.
I'll figure out another way because I'm back here and nobody's watching me anyhow, so it's fine.
Then he starts talking to her, and he finds out. He talks to her about how she killed a prisoner. She freaks out that he knows about her life. Okay. She attacks him. How do you know that? How do you know that? And then we talk about burned alive and wails on him. She punches him. And then when she gets tired of punching him, she leaves. And it turns out that he has now pickpocketed her glasses.
Well,
okay. Sunglasses.
First of all, I forgot about the glasses. We need to go back and talk about that because she's not wearing sunglasses in the beginning of this movie.
Oh, I don't know, but she puts them on.
Not in the beginning.
She puts them on at a certain point. She puts them on.
Yes, she does. So after she has no sunglasses on for the first 20 minutes of this film, right? Then they have the little scuffle and she locks him up in the back.
Yeah.
And at some point, she just pulls aviators out of her pocket and puts them on. for no other reason except for in 2 scenes, Mark Wahlberg needs to steal her aviators in order to escape. She pulls them out of nowhere.
Maybe the
it's
sun
just
came
totally random.
Well, she probably has like a little pouch. She has like an FBI pouch.
But you have to establish that earlier. I don't care. You can't establish it right before you need it. That's dumb. You got to just make it seem, because I didn't even know where she got them from. I thought maybe they were Mark Wahlberg, and she just like found him, was like, oh, these are cool. Now I'm a pilot. Because why does she have aviators to begin with? It's all weird.
Because she has sunglasses. You need sunglasses to look cool if you're a marshal.
She doesn't, though, because she drives outside to the airport. She's outside before the airport, never has sunglasses on. But now that she's inside the plane, after about 30 to 40 minutes, she's like, you know what? I guess I need sunglasses now.
You're such a continuity bitch.
But a CB, that's what you'd call me for short.
So
but moving forward,
he steals.
She's punching him in the face, Dan. Okay, very ineffectively, we'll say, because he's not bleeding at all at first, and she's punched him 3 or 4 times. But then she hugs him. There's like this weird. That's how he gets the glasses, because his hands, remember, are up here.
Yeah.
So she's punching from a standing position and then basically leans forward. So he's grabbing her boobies. And then she's like wrestling him in like a headlock situation, that's not even a move you would do when someone's tied up. And then she gets away and then she elbows him and then he finally bleeds. And then she goes back up front like nothing ever happened. And he's just like, now I got your sunglasses. How would she not notice that he has sunglasses in his hand? It's all weird. It's terrible. This is terrible.
You love this movie.
I do. I had a great time. You can't tell. I'm having a blast.
So then he takes apart the glasses and then is going to use them as not to pick the lock, but to scrape to
saw through. I don't really know anything about it, but that seems hard.
Then she finishes the story about what happened, where there was the prisoner who she let pee, and then they threw a Molotov cocktail in there, and then she ran away as the lady burned to death.
I like that you chuckled on that line.
That's funny.
As she burned to death. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird, man.
So now she's like, okay, there's a mole in the department, and so she thinks the mole is her boss, and so then she calls the director, and then the director's assistant's like, he's at his summer house, and then she's all like, you get him on the phone, or people are gonna die.
It's so weird that, one, he just has like an assistant that doesn't know anything that's going on.
It's really bad.
Like, wouldn't she be at the office maybe and like see all these other people freaking out?
You mean when you were running like it's not like this is like Sunday morning.
Operation.
You're running a gigantic operation. Yeah, I think that the assistant to the chief would know. Would
probably know a little bit. Maybe not the particulars of the case.
That's the person who has to know the most.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
So, whatever.
Super weird.
Who are you? What's happening? I don't think so. He's barbecuing today.
He's so busy in the sun.
Like, that's the thing about it is you're setting up these obstacles that are just dumb obstacles. Say, oh my God, he's out at his house. We have trouble getting reception out there. We're going to probably have to send an agent out there with a satellite phone to get him, or something. There's a million things you can do that aren't like, how incompetent we are. We're really incompetent. You're going to have
the dumbest agency ever.
Prove.
U.S. Marshals waste.
Okay, they get to the coast. They call Hassan, and then she's figured out. Now she refigures out that it's not her boss that's bad. It's the director that's bad. So she calls her boss and it's like, hey, boss.
But she already told the director that it was her boss.
Yeah. And so the director now wants to kill the boss because then that'll...
Doesn't really make any sense. She's the perfect scapegoat. So
Topher pulls out. So they're flying along the coast and he's trying to figure out where they are. So they see a shipwreck and then Topher pulls out his binoculars.
From the same place that she got her sunglasses.
It's this little. It's Felix the Cat's magic bag. Everything is in there. Whatever you need, we got.
What do you need? What do you need? Reach in the bag.
30 minutes to Anchorage. The point at which they say it's 30 minutes to Anchorage, I'm like, good God, what are we going to do for 30 minutes?
We've got 30 minutes left. Holy buckets!
Daryl is free. So this is what the knife was for. Daryl gets free. He runs up there and he stabs Topher in the chest twice.
Yeah. Whoa.
And
that's bad, right? I've never been stabbed, but like one is in his gut and then one is for sure in his lung.
I don't know. We'd have to ask Shannon, like, how long you could survive on that. Has
she been stabbed?
No, but she
kidding.
worked.
I know.
Her boss used to work he was like the gunshot guy. You know, he'd do all the.
Really?
I think so. She worked for a heart surgeon, but I think Greg was the gunshot guy. He did all the big ones. You know, when you came in, you know, with 100 bullets in you, he'd take them all out.
50 Cent.
He worked on 50 Cent.
Did he do 50 Cent? Yeah.
50 Cent. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah. So
it feels bad.
Yeah,
that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. So and then Topher, I think he pulls the knife out, maybe stabs him, and then she
it doesn't stab him. He cuts. So Mark Wahlberg is choking her with a seatbelt.
Oh, okay.
And so Topher pulls out the knife out of his chest and then slices the seatbelt with one swoop, like it's some sort of sword.
You don't want to pull the knife out, first of all.
No, because then the blood's gonna just flow on out of you. I'm pretty sure.
There was a police show, might have been Homicide. There was one where what's his name? Not the guy who plays the Hulk. Who plays the Hulk?
Lou Ferrigno?
No, the new guy.
New Mark Ruffalo.
Might have been Mark Ruffalo. It was somebody.
Okay.
And what happened to them is they were in the subway station and then they fell down on the tracks and then the subway rolled their whole bottom of their body between the platform and the thing. So you still got your head and you got all this, but all your intestines and legs have been wound up into a ball. And so,
what the fuck?
Oh yes, this is a horrifying episode.
What are you talking about? Oh my god,
he's alive, but in like super amounts of shock. And if they pull him out, he dies instantly.
Well, sure.
And so they have to like kind of, you're gonna be fine.
Oh my!
And I think that might be the whole episode is sort of being down there with him as he dies.
That's, first of all, I will never watch whatever that was because that sounds horrible. That sounds way too intense.
That's intense shit. But, you know, he pulls the knife out.
Similar to this. Yeah, he's fine. Don't worry about him.
I believe she shoots him with her gun twice and shoots him with a flare gun.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
Tony, I'm going to tell you something about guns. I don't know anything about guns. You don't want to get shot with a gun.
You don't. There was a long time. No one do this, please. I wanted to get shot with a gun. I wanted to get shot in a place that like wouldn't cause permanent damage. And a buddy of mine was a cop. He became a cop after college. And I was like, I really want you to shoot me, dude. I want to, blah, blah. And he's like, there is no spot.
This is a true story?
This is a true story. I was messed up as a young adult. Anyhow, and he like sat me down and he was like, listen, there's no spot where I can shoot you that I can guarantee that nothing will happen to you. And I was like, okay, but give me the odds. And he's like, I'm not doing it.
Bring it down where the best place would be.
Yeah, like let me percentage of survival and not even just survival, just permanent damage. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I don't want to be permanently damaged, but I want to have like a cool scar, like in Lethal Weapon, where it's like, oh yeah, I got a buckshot right in my abdomen and I'm fine. That was always what I wanted, was a cool story to tell. I'm over it now, right? To be clear, like I'm over that phase in my life. I don't want to do it anymore.
Tony,
I'm scared of needles, so I can't imagine what a bullet would feel like. But
you've told a lot of stories on this show. That's a doozy. That's a right up there. That you watch a movie like Lethal Weapon is like, I want to be like that, man.
Because it's cool, man. It's cool. Battle scars, right? Like that's a cool story.
It's not a battle scar. You didn't do anything.
But when I tell the story, it will be the same way it happens when I tell the story about my torn knee. When I tore cartilage in my knee, I tell everyone it was a surfing accident. I wasn't surfing. I was watching my brother surf and taking pictures, and I got taken by the tide, and I tore my ligament in my leg. But that's not what I tell people. I tell people I was surfing, and it was a surfing accident. So it'd be the same idea.
He was taken by the tide. Oh, he was taken by the tide.
Oh, yeah.
Tony,
So
you're
scary.
insane.
Sorry, I don't even know what we were talking about.
There's an artist, Chris Burden, who has a piece of performance art, had himself shot.
See? And people probably thought it was cool.
Chris is very cool.
See, I just wanted to be cool. All right. Should have just picked up smoking. That would have been easier.
Okay. Winston's dying. They first aid him a bit. They give him morphine.
A bit. She gives him one piece of cloth. It's like, put pressure on it. That's not going to do anything. One slice of gauze? That's not. First of all, he got stabbed twice. So one slice of gauze isn't going to cover both of them. And then she's like, hey, I'm going to give you morphine. Now, again, I don't do a lot of shots.
Shots.
But can you, everybody, can you do shots through clothes?
Sure.
Yeah? Okay. I just always assume, because they always roll up my sleeve and then, wet it down with something.
Why do they roll up your sleeve?
I assumed so that I wouldn't get it all over my clothes.
No, so they can put alcohol and make sure there's right. Like you have all sorts of crap that's
it's a cleaning thing.
On top
I see
of
what
you.
You're saying.
You want to clear all that stuff, kill it all with alcohol, and then stick it into a nice.
Theoretically, she could just go right through my clothes and it'll be fine. Sure. Okay, I never knew that. That's a true. I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure there's some clothes that are, because. Got to remember, your needle, right, it's a piece of metal that has a little hole through the middle, and then the tip thing's cut off, and then it's kind of a weird way. I'm not sure how the end is, but yeah, that's the thing. You don't want to blunt that needle by going through some, through a blue jean
that
or
makes
something,
because
that's just gonna make
mess
it
up
bigger.
The rest of it.
Yeah, because that's the thing when they go into you for when they're tapping into you for blood, there's all sorts of different sizes of needles, and the bigger the needle, the more painful it is.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
And the really good people, just use the little tiny needles, just get it right in there.
But then doesn't it take longer? Like while I'm doing the rolly thing, and
because it's small.
I want to be in and out. Just cut it. Just slice it and pour it over a goblet like they do in the movies, and I'll be out.
So the phlebotomist. That's the person who takes your blood. They're a phlebotomist.
Oh, that was a real word. All right.
Phlebotomist. Okay. He's dying. Morphine's him up. She says, thank you. And then he's like, you should have shot him when I told you to shoot him. She's all like,
And the answer is duh.
So
that's a given.
They call Hassan. They're like, you can pick up the speed, but they don't have a lot of fuel, but they're like, okay, we're going for it. And you're all like, okay, that's cool.
Because Hassan doesn't really care about anything that's happening. So he's just like, yeah, you're going to run out of fuel, but okay.
Good luck. She unlocks Topher. Now we know they're on the same side. We never really thought they weren't on the same side, but now we thought they're on the same side.
Nope, sure didn't.
And then he does a whole, I could have done anything, but instead I turned into a big jerk that did crime stuff.
Yeah, so I hate this speech.
I liked it.
His whole speech is, I went the easy way.
Yeah.
I don't think working for a crime boss, hiding his money and then embezzling money is the easy way to do anything. It's lucrative, but I don't think it's easy.
Yeah, but he's thinking that's like he thinks it's like the shortcut. It's the quick, risky way, really. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. No. I'm okay with that. Like I don't know. Easy just felt like the wrong word.
That is the wrong word.
Yeah.
Anyway. But I liked it. I thought this was nice, and I thought he acted
he's
well.
A good actor.
He's a good actor, and, and you're like, and I was like, okay, now he has to die.
But he's not gonna, Dan.
What do you mean he has to die in this movie?
He's not gonna die. I know you didn't finish it, but spoiler, he doesn't die.
He has to die, right? Doesn't he have to die?
He should have. He should. Yeah, but he doesn't die. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Sad, and then he wants her to go see his mom, and the score on this movie is terrible.
Some of the worst I think we've ever heard.
Okay, that's because I was like, this is an emotional scene that you have to underscore.
Yeah.
To bring it home, and I'm like, they're not doing anything, and then they just go into some other music, and you're like, that's part of the reason why this movie is so bad is they haven't spent any money on a score.
Yeah, it's bad. Yeah, real bad. Especially after seeing Oblivion not too long ago, which is just a 10 out of 10 score. I listened to it all week going to work and back. It's beautiful.
So she calls her boss is dead, but the big boss, she calls him and is all like, "I'm on to you, bitch. You know, Topher told us about this $25,000 a month that you were getting."
Yeah.
This guy ruined his entire career and was taking a gigantic risk for $25,000 a month.
Well, sure. But, over a year, that's more money. That's probably almost another salary. What's that? $250 plus $300? That's what, $300,000?
That is not a lot of money.
No, it's not a lot of money.
They're 8 miles out, tune the radio. They're on the radio. Marky Mark's still alive. Why didn't you kill me? This military plane comes up, and they're all like, "What's with the military plane? It's going to bring you in." And then Marky Mark's like, "Oh, that plane is there to destroy you if you try and crash into a school."
Yeah, which is actually kind of the same thing. He doesn't even really give a counterpoint. He just kind of explains what it means. You know what I mean? Like, he's not getting under their skin. It's just like, well, yeah, I mean, if you veer off course, they're there to make sure you don't. Like one way or the other. They're here to bring you in. They all said the same thing. I was really confused on why he thought this was the antithesis to what they were saying.
He thought he was truth bombing them and that they needed to do what he wanted them to do, which was land the plane normally.
Yep. But everyone just wants to get on the ground. So I'm very confused. It's a very weird scene.
There's a big crosswind. So Hassan's like, "Yeah, we should probably do a practice run." And then she's like, "No, man, I'm going for it." Marky Mark has now pulled his hands through the cuffs, and he's got these bloody weird hands.
He does this cool. He breaks his thumb.
Does he break his thumb?
Yeah, he does that like pop, and then he's able to slide it because the thumb is just like hanging. It was pretty cool. It was like one of the only times where I was like, "Whoa, that didn't look good."
And then she shoots him 3 times, and then
Hassan on the radio goes, "Were those gunshots?"
Yeah, he said that.
Just totally deadpan. Were those gunshots?
Did someone just fire a gun?
Oh my God.
Is everything okay?
Hey, what's going on up there? You guys in some sort of trouble? Yes, Hassan, we are in trouble.
Let me play some cool jazz to get you through the night.
Coming on 104.
They run out of fuel. He says that's a good thing. And here's the one line in the movie I liked. He's like, "That means you'll be less flammable." Less flammable,
which is a great line.
It's a great line.
Delivered so poorly again, but a great line. Maybe, you know what? I'm going to say maybe that's the only line that made it from the original draft, and the writer's not the worst writer in the history of the planet. Maybe.
Good line.
I don't know.
So she brings it in. Wheels fly off. All the fire trucks are chasing them.
Which you're right. The wheels should have already been off. So this should have made more sense.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. Anyhow.
Did you see that plane up in Canada that flipped over?
Yeah, I did. Did everyone made it, right?
Everyone lived.
Last I checked.
Every one of those people is getting $30,000 free and clear and can still sue or pursue whatever they want.
Oh, legally. Wow. Okay.
So it's like that, they're like, "We're going to front load you a bunch of money so that maybe you don't hate us as much."
Sure. Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm glad everyone's okay.
Yeah.
Get the compensation you need, friends.
Daryl flies out the open window now. Then
what a disappointment.
What do you mean? And then as he's getting up, the fire trucks hit him a bunch of times. It was fucking great.
Sure, but he needs to be thrown out of the plane.
Oh, she needs to throw him out?
So here's the thing. Yeah, she's on this whole, like, I'm not going to kill him. I'm not going to kill him. I'm better than that. She has to kill him. That has to be her arc there. She has to kill him. Instead, it's just like God is like, yeah, all right, you know what? He's a bad guy. I'll do it for you since you're too chicken shit to do it.
Yeah.
It's a cool death, but she needs to be the one that like kicks him out of the plane and then he gets run over.
Hasta la vista, bitch. Here,
Boom.
reap the runway, fuck. That's what I said.
That's pretty good. And then fire truck. Yeah, that's fun.
And then this is when I stopped the movie.
Yeah, I mean, you don't miss a ton. That's not true. You did miss another great moment. So they slide to a stop, right? Eventually. Topher has been unconscious the whole time. Hey, fans. Hey, that's how I imagine this guy sounds. So Topher wakes up and he has a funny line that's like, hey, we landed. Cool. Great little bit. And then the paramedics come on the plane.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we got to get him off because he's been stabbed twice. So they unhook him, and then one guy just grabs him around the chest and drags him out of the plane, which, like, not careful at all. They don't bring in one of those gurney things and lay him down and slide him out. He just bear wrestles him out of the plane. Could not have been comfortable.
They couldn't afford one of those stretchers. Very expensive.
And then they bring him into the ambulance and then leave the ambulance completely unattended. They don't immediately rush him off to the hospital. They just put him in the ambulance, stabbed twice, bleeding out.
So what you're saying is they do not affect any life-saving medicine on him.
Not even one.
Like,
not even a little bit.
You're in the protection of an ambulance, right? This magical ambulance.
So you're fine.
You're fine. Nothing gets,
so you are totally
once they
fine.
get you to the ambulance, you good.
It's a healing. It's kind of like being in the Poke Center and your Pokeball. They just put you on a little conveyor belt and you're healed. So he's bleeding out in the thing, and then Hassan comes out of the car and does like a "yay, we did it" thing, and they have a moment. And then a bad guy walks behind Hassan and gives some eyes. And so the marshal's like, oh, I'm clocking that. He goes into the ambulance, which is, again, completely unattended. No one is looking at Topher Grace, who's been stabbed twice. And shuts the door. And she's like, well, that's weird.
It's time to shut the door. Nice random dude. Closing the doors.
So she's like, well, that's strange. So she goes over and opens the door. And this guy is got Topher Grace in a plastic bag. And he's, I can't breathe. So then she shoots him 3 times, kills him.
How does she have all those bullets?
I don't have any
idea.
Maybe
they gave her a new gun.
So then she takes the thing off Topher, and he gets a great line. He says, this fucking day, which was very funny. Yeah. And then the movie ends in a reverse shot out the back of the ambulance of all of these EMT workers like slowly coming and being like, what just happened in here? They're all just curiously looking in. Did someone get shot? What happened over? And then credits, Mel Gibson. It was so weird. I don't understand what they were all looking at. As far as they know, one of their EMTs just got murdered in front of them.
Yeah, probably.
And nobody cares. Nobody cares at all.
Now, great movie. Did Mel direct a real movie? Like The Passion of Christ or something? He's directed a bunch
of real movies. Yeah, he did Passion of the Christ. He did Braveheart.
Hold on a second.
Hacksaw Ridge was like the last one he did that was really good.
Hold on. The guy who directed this movie directed Braveheart.
Yeah, baby. Come on. You don't know anything about Mel's. I can't be pro Mel in the world. I'm anti Mel as a human. Let me just be very clear.
As a filmmaker, I love him.
He's done some good stuff back in the day. So let's go over his directing thing here. Man Without a Face, Braveheart, Passion of the Christ, Apocalypto. I can't even say the name of that. Hacksaw Ridge and Flight Risk. So, really went downhill there. But I mean, Hacksaw Ridge was 9 years ago. So it's been a minute.
He has lost the ability. It's like,
for sure.
I haven't been on stage with comedy, and I haven't lost my comedy. Is better now than it's ever been.
Dan, I had a dream
really
just a few nights ago that we were on stage doing improv, and I was just totally frozen.
Yeah,
I had complete stage fright. I was like, I can't think of anything to say. It was weird. I've never had that dream before.
But I was killing.
Oh yeah, you were crushing. Yeah. Don't worry. You were slinging them out. You were setting me up, and I was just striking out the whole time. I don't know what's going on.
Like the good old days.
Those were good old days.
Yeah, they were.
Anyhow, this movie was great. Thanks for letting me pick it.
This was terrible. But, when I see an hour and 31, I'm like, God bless Tony.
You love it, right? Yeah. I saw that the other day when it came out, and I was like, a cool 90? Yeah, we can do this. This will be fun.
And I didn't even watch the last 5 minutes, so it matter.
You're good. 85 and under, baby.
Okay. Something we liked this week. Maybe I talked about Saturday Night Live last time. I don't know if I did or not.
I don't think you did.
Was watching all the Saturday Night Live 50 stuff, just great.
Yeah.
There's this one about this. Sandberg did this one about anxiety. This song about anxiety that I don't know.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So good. And then,
was that on the NSL 50? What did I just say? SNL 50?
The digital short that they did for the 50.
Okay. I'll have to watch the episode.
Everybody on the show having anxiety. You can just watch all the clips. It's all on. All on YouTube, which is great. And then I started to watch all the Sarah Sherman desk bits, and she is just phenomenally funny. And all these people that I'm never gonna be good, blah 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 blah. No, Saturday Night Live. is the same, it's like Tim Robinson was on Saturday Night Live. I watched the thing with him and he talked about it. He struggled. He was on for 1 year and struggled. And they did a thing for him that they've never done for anyone. And they were like, you can finish out your contract as a writer. So he wrote for another 3 years.
Oh, I guess I didn't even remember him being talent.
He was on, 1 year. They brought him in and he struggled. It was rough, very rough for him. But then, he got 3 more years writing, learned really how to write, and then went and did Detroiters, and then,
which is great.
One, I can never remember that.
I think you should leave now.
You should leave now, which I did not like at first, and I have come around on that, and it's one of the best sketch things ever created.
I still feel the same way, which is there's too many poop jokes, but when he's not doing poop jokes, I think it's very good.
There's just some, I rewatched the one. I mean, there's the two Will Forte ones. The one where he's on the plane, and then the one where there's a car parked in the sidewalk, and he crawls under it.
Oh yeah, right.
That is like
that's a good bit.
One
that's
of the greatest sketches. Gets his ponytail caught. You're just like, these are some insanely broken people. Making some.
We watch 2 of them on regular rotation when our life is bad. These are 2 things we turn to. It's the one where he sees the pig, his neighbor's pig, and he thinks it's like some sort of monster. And he's like, the first thing I thought of when I thought I was going to die was that, I'm so glad I don't have to go to work tomorrow. What have they done to us? That's my first, that sketch is a 10 out of 10 for us. And then there's the one where he's driving. And he's driving poorly, and the guy behind him's honking. And he's like, don't you know how to drive? And Tim rolls down the window and goes, no, I don't actually. It's one of my favorite moments ever scripted. Just, no, I don't know how to drive. It's great. Yeah, he's wonderful.
Yeah. And we'll see how the crazy movie with Paul Rudd is.
So I watched the trailer. It looks weird. I'm ready for it.
That trailer is like, we're not going to tell you if this is a comedy or a horror movie, and we're not going to give you any we're going to have clues of what it could be, but we're not telling you with this trailer what this movie's about.
I'm very ready for it. Very excited.
What do you got for us, Tony?
Well, we talked about Reacher, so let's talk about Reacher season 3 dropped. The first 3 episodes have dropped. We watched them all Thursday night immediately, and we love it. But what's good talk to?
I don't like watching shows where you can get caught and you have to, constantly fool people. I don't like that. That tension makes me uncomfortable. I think
this is not the season for you.
I've watched most of it, and I don't think he's great at selling that he's actually working for that guy. You're like, he's not very good at being undercover. And you're like, I would be like, I am not trusting you at all instantaneously.
Right. There's something off about you, guy.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to give anything away, but people do seem to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then, he has to
it's just
get rid of them.
It's a little too
I get it.
He needed to be a little more a little better at undercover. But when he walks out of the water and is wearing his underwear in front of what's her name, she's just like,
yeah.
Oh
my God.
You're like,
I was feeling the
yes,
same
I know
way.
you were, Tony.
I mean, the body, dude. It's unbelievable. Yeah. This guy.
It is a very fun character, and when he's putting the beat down on people, it's always very
it's
very
great.
enjoyable.
Yeah, the fight scenes are just so good.
Yeah.
And we're having a great time. It's sillier than the other two seasons. Yeah. A little. Like it's not jokey, but it's just like a little further down the unbelievable scale than the other two seasons. Yes. But we're having a blast. And we can't this Paulie guy, this giant Paulie guy that's somehow a foot taller than unbelievable. I cannot wait for them to fight.
Oh, that's gonna be an epic fight.
I'm just looking forward to it.
So I had one movie picked out, which we're gonna have to do at some point, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And then for some reason I came on this other movie and I was like, yeah, we're gonna do that. It's Conan from 2011.
Conan?
From 2011.
Like the actor Conan? No. Or Conan the Barbarian?
Conan the Barbarian from 2011.
2011. Who's Conan in that one?
Jason
Momoa. All right, I'm ready for this.
This is like,
that can't be good.
It's one of those movies where you go to the Rotten Tomatoes and people are like, this is the worst fantasy movie I have ever seen.
Yes, I'm very excited. I love a little Khal Drogo. Come on, baby.
So we're gonna go Conan and see how that goes.
Great.
And just call it Conan. Don't call it Conan really the Barbarian when you do the thing next week. Just Conan.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna call it Conan the Barbarian starring Jason Momoa, and then you'll have to type all that in. Beautiful stuff. I'm excited.
Flight Risk.
Silly movie.
So silly. Terrible.
I enjoyed it.
Okay. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up, give us a comment, or subscribe, because then you'll just keep getting it in your inbox every day.
Which is exactly what you want. You want more. More and more and more.
And we'll be back next week talking about Conan.
Goodbye, everybody.
Yeah.